Hello students, this is Professor Faiz Raut from Jain College of Engineering Department of MBA. I have completed Unit 1 in the previous video. In this video, I'll be completing Unit 2. Okay, inshallah. Let's see. The syllabus of Unit 2 goes, it's basically about demand analysis and definitely supply analysis, and also it consists of demand forecasting. So the syllabus goes law of demand, exceptions to law of demand, elasticity of demand, classification of demand with respect to price, income, cross elasticity, advertising and promotion elasticity. Then it has uses of elasticity of demand for managerial decision making, and measurement of elasticity of demand, how to measure the elasticity of demand. Then it consists also of law of supply, elasticity of supply. Then the other part consists of demand forecasting, where meaning and significance and method of demand forecasting. You don't have any problems from for demand forecasting type of concept as per the mention. As per the mention in the syllabus, as per it is mentioned in the syllabus, but you have the concepts. There are two major demand forecasting methods which has been discussed. Okay, well, the students document is lengthy because many diagrams are there in this. Okay, it is not about much of the content is there. The diagrams are pretty big and it is occupying the space in the document, so that's the reason. So if I sorry about that. So if I begin with the introduction, okay, as we had studied in previous module about microeconomics and macroeconomics, and the managerial economics is about connecting both the things, okay, in involving some of the things of microeconomics, some of the things of macroeconomics, and making a managerial decision. So in this there are certain basic concepts used, some important tools and techniques to determine what is the demand, because demand is the basis of all the productive activities. Whatever we are going to produce, okay, that will be dependent upon how much demand is there of that product in the market. Okay, so that's the reason determining demand becomes the first and the foremost thing in our business. Okay, for a manager, it is very important to check how much is the demand. So there are various methods, various laws which goes, again sorry about that, various laws and various methods which goes to determine the demand, how to study it. Okay, so basically a demand, in the general term, demand means a desire, need, a want, a requirement of a commodity. Okay, so we need to determine whether the people who are our customers, whether they need, whether they desire, or whether they want our product. Okay, and demand should also accompany the purchasing power of that person. Okay, just for example, if a man wants to buy a car but he does not have sufficient money to pay for it, in the economic sense, this want is not a demand for the car, right? He wants a car but he doesn't have any money to pay for it, so that cannot be considered as a demand. But if a rich miserly person wants to buy a car but not willing to pay for the car, his desire too is not a demand for the car. Okay, so that means even the person should have money, the person should have desire. If both the things are there, only then effective demand is created. Okay, so before going to the law of demand, I'll just talk about some utility. Utility is the want satisfying commodity of a product. Okay, this can be looked upon from two angles, from the product angle and from the consumer's angle. From the product angle, it is the want satisfying property of a commodity. Okay, that's what I told. From the consumer's angle, it is utility is psychological feeling of satisfaction, pleasure, happiness, or well-being. Okay, so from the consumer's angle, okay, if the consumer is buying a product, he is feeling happy, he is feeling satisfied, there is a pleasure and a feeling of well-being for him. Okay, only then he will buy the product, only then he will find the utility in the product, only then he will find the usage of that product. Okay, while consuming that product, while possessing the commodity, he will be very happy. Okay, for example, there pen. Okay, pen is a commodity. Okay, sorry about that. So pen is a commodity. Pen has some want satisfying property. Okay, so people want to use pen, okay, for signatures, for writing, for many things. But that same pen is not doesn't have any utility for a toddler, okay, a small child who doesn't know how to write, or just has begun to write. So he'll be using pencil and eraser and all those stuff. He'll not be using pen for writing in his while he's going to school and he's writing. He doesn't have any signature, so he'll be using pencil. So the pen will not have any utility for a toddler or a child. And the pen, that same pen will have a utility for other people. Okay, so that's the reasons utility is to be divided into two parts. From the one part, it is the want satisfying property of a commodity from the product angle, and the psychological feeling of satisfaction and happiness from the consumer's angle. Okay, so this is how we determine the utility. And then now we come to law of demand. Law of demand, the law itself is kind of important, because that cannot be written on your own, so you need to memorize it. So it states that other things remaining constant, okay, when the price of the product rises, the demand for that commodity falls, and when the price of the commodity falls, the demand for that commodity rises. So there are two things which are being compared. First, we begin with the price. If any changes is happening in the price, what is the resultant change in the demand? Okay, so first comes price, then comes demand. So increase in the price will cause decrease in the demand, decrease in the price will cause increase in the demand. This is what is being represented in the graph here. Okay, so this is the price, this is the quantity demanded. Okay, so whatever the quantity which is demanded depends upon what is the price of that product. So P1 corresponds to Q1. So at price P1, the quantity is Q1. As the price decreases from P1 to P2, okay, so here then the quantity also increases, because decrease in the price has caused change in the increase in the quantity which is demanded. So that's the reason the quantity is getting increased from Q1 to Q2. So if we connect these 2 points, then we will get this kind of a line. Okay, this is also called as a demand curve. Okay, it will not be specifically a line always, okay, but somewhat it will be a representation like this. Okay, this is what is the law of demand, which is stating, and it has a graph. Okay, so kind of important in the economics. This is from where everything is getting started, but there are few things, there are few exceptions to law of demand. There are many, but as far as this notes is concerned, we have mentioned it. There are 3. Okay, exceptions to law of demand means that the graph which you have this graph, there are certain things, certain products, certain situations where this graph would not be followed. Okay, that means decrease in the price will not cause increase in the quantity, or increase in the price from P2 to P1 will not cause decrease in the quantity from Q2 to Q1. Okay, that will not happen. Why? Because there are 3 things. Okay, first is about Giffen goods. Giffen, as defined as the necessity goods, can be called also inferior goods. Okay, necessity good is very important, very much necessary. The consumer of those goods, basically there are all the consumers uses those type of goods, the Giffen goods, the necessity goods. Okay, so that's the reason whose demand increases when the price increases. It should have been happened in the reverse way, like in the law of demand, but it doesn't happen like that. Okay, the demand also will increase when the price increases. There are certain inferior commodities consumed by poor household as an essential commodity. If the price of such goods increases, its demand also increases instead of decreasing. The reason is, when the price of inferior good increases, income remaining the same, poor people cut down the consumption of superior substitutes so that they are able to buy sufficient quantity of the inferior good to meet their demand. Okay, so in that case we can consider that the demand is also increasing, because there are some necessity goods, important goods like food grains and stuff. So those are very important for survival of a human being. Okay, rather than other things like entertainment and other luxury items. So uh, the human being will not cut down their consumption of food. They can cut down their consumption of luxury items. So that's the reason giffen goods, the price increase will also call the demand increase, and if the price is decreasing of the giffen goods, there will be no change in the demand for that matter. Okay, so that's the reason giffen goods will not follow the law of demand, because any change in the price will cause the equivalent change in the demand. Okay, because these are inferior goods. Okay, you can check the example here. Okay, so I'll move forward. Second is about Veblen goods. Veblen goods again will not follow the law of demand, because they are the kind of a status symbol. The law of demand does not apply to commodities which are used as status symbol, or for enhancing social prestige, or for displaying wealth and richness. Example: gold, precious stones, rare printing, antiques, etc. Okay, so this is what is about. Veblen goods are kind of a luxurious goods. They represent a status symbol in the society. So that's the reason, if the price of that commodity, of that Veblen good, is coming down, then the people who are the customers of that good will stop buying those goods, because they will if the price of of that Veblen good is coming down, then it is no longer a status symbol. Okay, everyone will be buying those goods as the price is low. All the people are buying it, so the rich people will not find those goods unique for them. Okay, it is becoming a common goods. So that's the reason rich people will stop buying that good. And anyways, the middle class, the poor people are not accustomed to buy those goods, so they will also remain away from that good. They will also not buy that good much. So totally rich people are also staying away from buying those goods. Poor people don't have that connect with that good, so they are also not buying. So eventually the demand of that good will also fall, even if the price is falling. Okay, so that's the reason the Veblen good will also not follow the law of demand. Okay, for example, here the reduction in the price of Dhara oil, which was considered as a premium brand, okay, lost its demand because lost its demand among the prestige class, which felt that oil is no longer a premium product. Okay, Dhara oil was one of a premium product. The price of that product was dropped by the company, so the premium people who were using the oil stopped using the oil, because they thought the Dhara oil is no longer premium. Even now, if you consider maybe iPhone is somewhat considered to be a Veblen good, because only few people afford it and only few people use it. So and also we have diamond studded iPhones and all those things. So the people who uses iPhone are very less, so it is considered also as a status symbol. Okay, many such examples are there, like the watches. Okay, you have Tag Heuer, Rado. These companies, those who manufacture watches, the cost of watches goes in thousands of rupees. Okay, so many people don't buy those watches. Only few people buy, few rich people buy, and that also becomes a status symbol. If Rado watches and Tag Heuer watches also starts coming in 5,000 and 6,000 rupees, then it will no longer be called as a Veblen good, and again their price, because of the decrease in the price, the demand will also decrease. Okay, so moving on to the third one, which is expectation of future price rise in the future. Further price rise in the future, this means that the price is rising. Okay, so as the price is rising, it should be considered that the demand will fall because the rise in the price. But the consumers are of the view that as the price has started to rise, in future, in few days or few months, the price will again rise to much more than this. So that's the reason, even if there is a small price rise, the demand will also increase. Then if the price rise increases, if the price increases, then again the demand will also keep on increasing. Okay, so because they are expecting that in future the price will rise more, so that's the reason presently the demand is also increasing. Okay, so this can happen, maybe for instance in pre-budget months prices generally tend to rise, yet people buy more storable goods in anticipation of further price rises due to the rising or imposition of indirect taxes. Okay, so this also happens during any natural calamity, or it also happens in stock market. So in stock market, if today the price has risen, the stock prices has risen of any company, or the entire stock market has risen, then in this case people will feel tomorrow the stock price will rise much more. And if tomorrow also stock prices rises, then the people will think, okay, the third day also the price will rise. Okay, so in that anticipation the stock market and the stock prices will keep on going, and still the people will be buying the stock prices, the stock companies, stocks, basically stock scripts. Okay, because of the expectation that in future the price will rise. Okay, so these were the three exceptions of law of demand, okay, which we have mentioned in this notes, which is Giffen goods, Veblen goods, and expectations of future price rise. Okay, then we come to the most interesting part, which is elasticity of demand. We are doing price elasticity. Okay, so elasticity, as the explanation goes, the elasticity is the measure of responsiveness of change in the demand when one of its variable changes. Okay, so we were studying, as per the law of demand, we have studied the change in the price is causing the change in the demand, but how much price will cause how much change in the demand, that is being determined by elasticity. Well, not only just the price, but the other determinants. Okay, price is one of the determinant, very important determinant, but it is one of the determinant of which on which the demand depends upon. Okay, so if a small change in price will how the resultant demand will change, that determines the elasticity of the demand. Okay, if there is a change in price of 1 rupee, then the demand, how much it changes. If the change in price of 10 rupees, what is the change in the demand? If the change in price is 1000 rupees, what is the change in the demand? Okay, so this is what is being determined in the elasticity. Okay, so there are 5 types in elasticity of demand. First is infinite or perfect elasticity of demand. Okay, so the elasticity coefficient will be going to infinity because it is infinitely elastic. That means even elasticity of demand is infinite when even a negligible fall in the price of the demand commodity leads to an infinite extension in the demand for it. Okay, that means a small price fall, okay, will cause infinite increase in the demand. Okay, so that is well, that is not practical, but in theoretical way we can draw a graph and explain it. Okay, so this is how it looks like. Okay, so this is the price axis, this is the quantity axis. Okay, so a small infinite change in the price also will cause a huge change in the demand. Okay, so this is how it is represented by a horizontal line, infinite elasticity. Okay, infinite elasticity will be determined by this graph. Then we have perfectly inelastic demand. Perfectly inelastic demand, again, what you can say, infinitely inelastic demand. In this case it is the other extreme. Okay, the other extreme limit when the demand is perfectly inelastic. It means that howsoever great the rise or fall in the price of the commodity in question, its demand remain absolutely unchanged. That means you can increase the price or decrease the price in whatever way, the demand will have no change at all. Okay, so that is how exactly opposite from the previous one. Previous one was perfectly elastic, you cannot change the price at all. Okay, a small change in price will cause a huge change in the demand. Here, whatever change you do in price, the demand will not at all change. Okay, then the third one is highly elastic. Okay, relatively elastic demand. So it is like So it is like a kind of a practical way in which from perfectly elastic to highly elastic. Okay, the first one was perfectly elastic, this is highly elastic. So in highly elastic, if there is a small change in the price, it will cause a huge change in the demand. That means from this price there is a decrease in the price, so from this quantity which is demanded, the quantity has been increased to this much. Okay, so huge increase in the quantity. So a small, from 10 rupees you have decreased the price to 8 rupees. So from 10 rupees, at 10 rupees the demand was 100 units. Okay, you have decreased the price to 2 units, so from 100 units the demand has increased from 100 to 200 units, like something like that. Okay, the next is about highly inelastic. So highly inelastic is related to the second one, which was perfectly inelastic. So highly inelastic means it is not when when even a substantial change in the price brings only a small extension, contraction in the demand, it is said to be highly inelastic. That means if there is a reduction in the price from here to here, if there is a reduction in the price this much, the increase in the quantity demanded is pretty much small. Okay, not much. So even if you decrease your price from 10 rupees to 2 rupees, your demand from 100 rupees will increase to maybe 110, that's it, or maybe 102 units, 105 units. So the increase in the demand will not be that much even if you decrease the prices. Okay, so you need to determine in which kind of elasticity your product has in your company. Okay, so because you'll be getting some suggestions that okay, we are not having sales that much, so we should decrease the price. So even if you decrease the price, your margin is decreasing first of all, but even after that, your if your product falls under highly inelastic demand, then even if you decrease the price, your demand will not go high. That means your sales you will not be able to get the increase in the sales. Okay, so before taking any marketing decisions to decrease the price, or any manager decision to decrease the price, increase the price, you first need to identify um, in which graph basically your product falls, your company falls, whether it is highly elastic, highly inelastic, what it is. Okay, or it is unitary elastic. Unitary elastic is the equivalent. So whatever the change is there in the price, the equivalent change is there in the quantity. Okay, that means 2 units your price has decreased, so 2 units your demand will increase. Okay, so exactly equal proportionate change in the demand as per the price will be there. That is unitary elastic. Then we come to law of supply. Okay, next is about law of supply. Well, like law of demand, we also have law of supply, the similar kind of explanation. When other thing remaining constant, when the price of the commodity rises, the supply for that commodity also rises, and when the price of the commodity falls, the supply for that commodity also falls. Okay, that means price and supply are directly proportional. If there is increase in the price, there will be increase in the supply. When there is fall in the price, there will be fall in the supply. Okay, so this is how it is represented in graph. This is the price axis, this is the quantity which is supplied. Okay, that is this axis. So as and when the price is increasing, the quantity is also increasing. So this is how we get the graph. Okay, we also have elasticity of supply in this. Okay, so same as we have in elasticity of demand, we have elasticity in supply, 5 graphs, which is infinitely or perfectly elasticity of supply. Perfectly elastic will look very much same like the elasticity of demand. Okay, there is a small change in the price, infinitely small change in the price will cause a huge change in the supply quantity. Okay, and perfectly inelastic supply, even if the price is changing, there will be no change, almost no change in the quantity which has been supplied. Okay, and then it a highly elastic supply. Okay, highly elastic supply, again it is similar to the first one, which is a small change in the price will cause a huge change in the quantity which has been supplied. Okay, And then the fourth one is about highly inelastic demand or relatively inelastic demand, which is similar to this, which is quite similar to the second one. Okay, which was perfectly inelastic. It is similar to this one. This highly inelastic demand will tell, even if there is a considerable change in the price, considerable increase in the price or considerable decrease in the price, then the quantity which has been reacting to that change in the price is very small. Okay, not infinitely small, it is measurable, but it is small as compared to the gap between these prices. The gap in this quantity is very small, so that's the reason it is highly inelastic. It is not reacting much. Okay, and then the finally unitary elastic supply. So the unitary elastic supply में the equal change in the price, the change in the price will cause equal change in the demand. Okay, which is similar to unitary elastic demand. Okay, so equal 1 unit change in the price will cause 1 unit change in the quantity which is being supplied. So that is what is about elasticity of supply. Now we move on to demand and supply analysis. So now we are overlapping the demand curve and the supply curve onto each other, and then we are determining what is the equilibrium price, what is the price at which the demand and supply are balanced. Okay, so we have d dash as the demand, then ss dash or ss1 as the supply. Okay, so this is my demand curve, this is my supply curve. There is a point E where my demand and supply are intersecting. Okay, so that means the quantity demanded is equal to the quantity which is being supplied. So I am getting 1000 products for supplying in my shop, and exactly 1000 products are being sold to my customers. So there is no shortage, okay, or there is no surplus in my shop. Exactly 1000 units I am bringing in my shop to sell it, and exactly 1000 units are getting sold and being bought by the customers of my shop. So there is exactly equilibrium. So the price of the product, if I am keeping as 400, then 40 units are getting sold. Okay, so if 400 is my price, 40 units are getting sold, then there is no shortage or no surplus in the demand or in the supply. Okay, so that is what is equilibrium price. Suppose, thinking that at 400 rupees I am making not much profit, my profit margin is less at 400 rupees, so I thought of increasing the price of the product. So if I increase the price to 500, okay, so if I increase the price to 500, I am getting more margin. So in that case, I will tell to my suppliers to supply more products, because I'll be giving them high margin as well. So because of that, they will start supplying more, and as slowly the price is rising, the quantity which is demanded should decrease. Okay, so that's the reason at 500, and if I take the example of 600, at 600 at point A, okay, so if I drop down a line from here, from A, the quantity which is demanded is 20. At 600 rupees, the quantity which is demanded is 20, and at that same 600 rupees, the quantity which is supplied is 60, because my suppliers are very happy, and I'm giving them higher margin, so they are supplying more products to me. Okay, 60 products, but the demand has dropped from 40 to 20 because the price has increased. So here I realized I cannot sustain my business at 600 rupees, so I start dropping my price. Okay, I start dropping, and I reach 200 to increase in order to convince the customers that the price has decreased, come and buy the products. So in that case, I'll not stop at 400, I'll go to 200. So at 200, my demand has went from A to Q. Okay, so as the demand axis, so from A the demand has increased till Q. So now the demand is 60 units, but as my suppliers are unhappy because of the decrease in the prices, they are not manufacturing the products and they are not supplying the products to me, so my supply from B has reduced to P. Okay, so because of the decrease in the supply and increase in the demand, there is the shortage of products, because I have only 20 units to sell, and 60 units is the demand of my products. So there is a shortage of products. When there is shortage of products, the prices tend to push upwards. There are more customers coming in, I don't have the products, so I start increasing the price of the product now. Okay, because I need more profit margin again, so slowly I start increasing the price of the product from 200 to 300. Okay, still there is shortage, then I start increasing to 400, then 500, then 600, and again at 600 I'll feel okay, there is a surplus of quantity and the customers are not much, the demand has dropped. So again from the surplus I'll start reducing the price. So every time in the market, between this and this, there is a fluctuation. Okay, there is a fluctuation between surplus and shortage, like this every time, and this equilibrium price will be determined by the market itself. What is the equilibrium price? Okay, this is not a well defined price in the market. You will get to it eventually when there is a volatility between surplus and shortage, because the supplier and the consumer, the supplier who is supplying the product, the consumer who is buying the product, they are not coming simultaneously. The supplier is first the manufacturer is manufacturing the product, then it is being supplied to the supplier, then it comes to the market, and then the consumer comes in, then the product is sold. Okay, now if the price is rising, immediately the consumer will not be taken aback. Okay, the price is rising, I'll stop buying the products. Initially he will try to cope up with the increase in the prices, and then he will start finding the alternatives. Okay, so that will take time. So that's the reason in markets there is a fluctuation between surplus and shortage, and there will be some points at which equilibrium will be reached. Okay, but that is not a well defined price like 400 rupees here in the graph. Okay, so this is what is about demand and supply analysis. Okay, so moving on, there is a great amount of explanation which has been mentioned. Okay, you can go through it. Okay, then a small kind of a definition or measurement of elasticity concept. How to measure the elasticity? Well, there are 4 elasticity which has been mentioned, which has been told that elasticity depends mainly upon price of the product, the cross elasticity of the product, then the income of the consumer, then the advertising or promotional elasticity of the demand. So on these 4 factors our elasticity will depend upon, and the general formula of elasticity of demand is percentage change in the quantity of demanded quantity demanded of product X. Okay, this off, ignore it, then divided by the percentage change in the demand determinant factor Y. Okay, so numerator will come, which is what is the quantity which is demanded, and denominator will consist of the factor which has been determined. Okay, so again moving on to the next is about price elasticity of the demand. And so in price elasticity, I'll just go through this, and it's quite simple. Okay, price elasticity of demand, in this the percentage change in the quantity demanded of product X divided by the percentage change in the price of the product X. Okay, so there is a product X, okay, one product which is product X. As the change in the price of that product, how much the change in the quantity of that product will be, okay, of that same product. If the price of the product is increasing from P1 to P2, the quantity will decrease from Q1 to Q2, something like that. So that's the reason the elasticity of price will always be negative, because one of the determinant of Q1 from Q2 to Q2 minus Q1 or P2 minus P1, one of this will be they will have a minus sign when you solve it. Well, you're not asked any numerical in this, but still if you are trying to solve this, one of them will come negative, so the elasticity is always negative of price. Okay, this is what is there. Then we move on to determinants of price elasticity. What are the determinants? How we determine there is applies price elasticity is about available of substitutes. If any substitute is available, if I don't have Pepsi, I will have Coke. That is a substitute. If I don't have 7 Up, I will have Sprite. That is a substitute. If I don't have Mirinda, I will buy Fanta. That is a substitute. If there is a substitute is there, okay, if I don't have coffee, I'll drink tea, like that. If there is a substitute is there, then it will be very much the price will be very much determined by this, if there is a substitute. So one of the most important determinants of elasticity of demand for the commodity is available of its close substitute. The higher the degree of closeness of the substitutes, the greater the elasticity of the demand for that commodity. Okay, that means if the substitute is very much similar, like in case of Pepsi and Coke, okay, the substitute is very much similar, then the elasticity will be very high. But if, for example, coffee and tea, they are not very much similar, okay, so elasticity will be low. Okay, and if for example petrol versus diesel, okay, if you don't have petrol, you cannot put diesel, okay, but so the elasticity will be not much high. Okay, so something like that it will be there. Okay, the closeness of that substitute will determine what is the high level of the elasticity of demand. Okay, so the moving on to the next one is about the nature of the commodity. Okay, nature of the commodity also affects the price elasticity of the demand. Commodities can be grouped as luxuries, comforts, necessities. Okay, so demand for the luxury is more elastic than the demand for necessities and comforts. Okay, because luxurious goods will come when you have money left over after buying necessity goods, after buying important goods. If the money is left over, then you will buy luxury goods. If there is decrease in the income of the customer, decrease in the consumption pattern of the customer, the luxurious goods will have the most elasticity. If the people don't have money, they will immediately stop going to holidays, going on vacations, going to movie theaters, going and eating out. They will slowly decrease that. If the price is rising, inflation is rising, they will switch on to saving, switch on to buying only the necessity goods. So the prices of luxurious goods or the demand of that luxurious goods is highly elastic. Whereas we had studied in Giffen goods, the necessity commodity will not have much elasticity of the demand. Okay, they will not increase or decrease suddenly because they are necessary, people will buy them. Okay, whereas other way around for the luxurious goods. Then the third one is about weightage in the total consumption. Another factor that influences the elasticity of demand is the proportion of income which consumer spends on a particular commodity. If the proportion of the income spent on a commodity is large, its demand will be more elastic. On the contrary, if the proportion of the income spent on the commodity is small, its demand is less price elastic. Okay, just for example, matches, books, pens, toothpaste, the amount which is required to buy these commodities like toothpaste, pens, books, it is very small. Okay, as compared to the other products which you are buying for your survival, the amount which you spend on toothpaste is very small. So a small increase in price of toothpaste, it will be very much you will be not concerned about it. Okay, price of the toothpaste has increased or decreased, you will not be concerned because the amount which you are spending to buy that toothpaste or that pen, okay, of 5 rupees ka 6 rupees ho gaya pen, then you will not be that much concerned. So that's the reason if your product falls into that category, then it will not be much elastic. Okay, but if your product, if you are suppose you are buying something which requires a huge investments, like maybe in your cooking, in your kitchen, you are buying olive oil. Okay, olive oil is pretty costly. Okay, if you are making some items using olive oil, okay, and the price of olive oil is increasing by maybe just by 5% also. So that will definitely be hampering your budget. So that's the reason it will be a highly volatile. Now if the price of olive oil is increasing, you will be switching on from olive oil to normal sunflower oil or rice bran oil or any other lesser quality of oil as compared to olive oil. You will be immediately switching it, because those are not those is the increase in the or decrease in the price of the olive oil is affecting your budget pretty much as compared to the toothpaste or pens or books. Okay, so moving on to the next one, which is time factor in adjustment of consumption pattern. Okay, time factor, price elasticity of demand depends also on time consumers need to adjust their consumption pattern to a new price. The longer the time available, the greater the price elasticity. The reason is that over a period of time, consumers are able to adjust their expenditure pattern to price changes. For instance, if the price of high quality cell phone is decreased, okay, if the price of high quality cell phone is decreased, demand will not increase immediately unless people possesses excess purchasing power. But over time, people may be able to adjust their expenditure pattern so that they can buy cell phone at a lower price. Okay, so immediately it will not. If the price of any commodity, okay, any electronic commodity, basically, if even if it is decreasing the quantity demanded, will not increase suddenly, because people might be having already those products. So if you as a company is a competitor from maybe manufacturing of cell phones, if you are decreasing the price of the cell phone, immediately your demand of your product will not increase, because people are already having cell phones. So when they when they are using the present cell phone, when it becomes old, when the consumers are starting to think about new cell phones, then slowly your demand will pick up, but not immediately. Consider another example. If price of the petrol is reduced, the demand for the petrol does not increase immediately and significantly, because people might be having diesel cars. They are not as the price of the petrol decreases and the diesel price remains same, people will not switch immediately from diesel cars to petrol cars, because they will be using those diesel cars for a certain time, and then when they plan to buy new car, then they might switch from diesel cars to petrol cars. So it will take some time. So there is a time factor or adjustment factor which has been involved in the consumption pattern, so that will determine the price elasticity. Okay, and I guess the last one, range of commodity use. How much you are going to use the commodity. The range of uses of a commodity also influences the price elasticity of its demand. The wider the range of the uses of a product, the higher the elasticity of demand for the decrease in the price. Okay, as the price of the multi-use commodity decreases, people extend their consumption to its other uses. Therefore, the demand for such a commodity generally increases more than the proportionate increase in the price. Okay, definitely have not been understood by the statements. Just for instance, milk can be taken as it is and in the form of curd, cheese, ghee and buttermilk. Okay, so as the demand of milk or milk has been used to manufacture so many things. Okay, curd, cheese, ghee, buttermilk. Okay, it also is been used in making ice creams, to make paneer. So it has too many range. Just with one product, which is milk, there are too many products which is which can be derived from that, which is dependent upon milk. Okay, if you want curd, you should have milk with you. If you want to make cheese, ghee, buttermilk, ice cream, you want to make paneer or any such dairy products, all the dairy products is dependent upon milk. So so milk has a huge range of commodity use. So there is ice cream companies, there are companies who manufacture ghee, there are companies who manufacture cheese, butter, there are companies who manufacture paneer, where paneer is being sold in many restaurants, many dishes. Okay, so there is a huge range for milk. So the demand for milk will therefore be highly elastic for decrease in the price. So if the price of the milk decreases, then the price of ghee, cheese, curd, buttermilk, paneer, ice cream, so many things which are dependent upon milk, their price can also easily decrease. So that's the reason the change, the range at which of a product, okay, that will determine it is highly elastic. Okay, if the range is not much, okay, if the production of some product, if the production of some item, nothing can be derived from that much, if the range is not high, then the price is not elastic. Okay, the demand for that product is not elastic. Even if there is a change in price, the elasticity of demand will not be much higher. But if the range is very large, like an example in milk, okay, then the elasticity will be very high. Okay, so this is what about price elasticity. Then we come to cross elasticity. Cross elasticity, I'll just read it. The cross elasticity is the measure of responsiveness of demand for a commodity to changes in the price of its substitutes and complementary goods. Okay, so here we are checking that one product which has a substitute product or which has a complementary product to it. So the price of that product, how it is affecting its substitute, or how it is affecting its complementary good. Okay, just for instance, cross elasticity of demand for tea. Okay, we have tea, which is a product, is the percentage change in the quantity demanded due to the change in the price of its substitute, coffee. Okay, so coffee can be considered as a substitute of tea. Okay, not very highly elastic, but still, if we don't have tea, people might be tending to consume coffee, because again, a hot beverage, same category. Okay, tea is a hot beverage, coffee is a hot beverage. Okay, so they'll be considering, if I don't have tea, I'll have coffee. So coffee can become a substitute of tea. Okay, so in this case, the change or the availability or the price of tea will determine the demand for the coffee. Okay, as it is a substitute. So again, if I continue with this example, tea will require, maybe to make a tea, you will require tea powder, you will require sugar, you require water, you require milk. At least these four things you will require to prepare a tea. So water, milk, sugar, and of course tea powder we'll consider as tea, which we cannot. So sugar, milk and water are the complementary products of tea. Without them, tea, it is very difficult to make tea. If you don't have milk. Okay, if the price of milk is increasing, if the price of sugar is increasing, then the price of tea will also increase, because they are the complementary product. They are being used to manufacture tea. So if the price of sugar is increasing, that same sugar which you are putting into the tea, the price of tea will also increase. Okay, again, in the terms of coffee, if the price of sugar is increasing or the milk is increasing, the price of coffee will also increase. So sugar and tea, they are complementary goods. Sugar and coffee, they are complementary, but coffee and tea, they are substitute. Okay, sugar and tea cannot be substitute, because instead of tea I cannot have sugar. So they are not at all complementary, not at all substitute of each other. They are complementary, they require together. So I have a refill and a pen. So without a refill I cannot use a pen. Okay, empty pen. They are complementary to each other. But you can consider, if I don't have pen, in emergency I can use pencil, maybe like that. Okay, so cross elasticity, that's the reason the formula goes: percentage change in the quantity demanded of product X divided by the percentage change in the price of the product Y. Okay, different product, the price of different product is determining your demand. Okay, so theoretically and practically it has been explained here. You can go through it. Okay, the important use of cross elasticity to define substitute goods, vital important pricing decisions, how it has been explained. You can go through this. I'll come to income elasticity. Income elasticity is very much straightforward. If the income of the consumers is increasing, the quantity which they will be demanding will also increase. Okay, so if income of the consumer is increasing, the quantity demanded will also increase, but up to a certain level, up to a certain threshold, that will happen. Because when the price of that commodity is increasing, the demand for that good which that consumer is buying, it will also increase. But after a certain level, after a certain increase in the income, the consumer will shift to some another superior product, which in his eyes there is some another product which is very much superior. He'll be shifting to that. Okay, just for example, there is a family who are eating maybe eating sunflower oil, okay, which is pretty okay, not very costly but not very cheap also. So they were consuming sunflower oil for all their cooking, for all their dishes. So as and when the income of that family was increasing, the demand for that sunflower oil, they started making huge dishes, they started consuming that oil more, but up to a certain limit. Okay, but as and when they're increasing, the income is increasing, now they switch from sunflower oil to olive oil, because they have much more money to spend on oil in their budget. So initially there was an increase in the demand of sunflower oil, but after a certain time, after a certain limit of that income, suddenly there was a drop in sunflower oil, because that person switched from sunflower oil to olive oil. Okay, so that will happen in income elasticity. So initially a normal formula can go that the change in the income, okay, will cause the increase in the quantity of the product, but after a certain level, the person will shift from one product to another product because of the great increase in the income level. So that is how that will affect. So there is an pretty much a good example here, okay, again of oil itself. Okay, another example is about what do you say, the staple food of the people. Okay, and income elasticity depends upon what it is, a essential good, it is a comfort good, or it is a luxurious goods. Okay, so how income elasticity will affect the quantity which is demanded. Okay, you can go through it. So I'll move on to the last one, which is advertising or promotional elasticity of sales. So in this, again, a simple one, percentage change in the quantity demanded or the sales of the product will divided by the percentage change in the advertising or promotional expenses. So the easier way, it says that if you increase the advertisement, okay, if you increase the advertisement, there will be increase in the sales. If you decrease the advertisement, there will be decrease in the sales. Nothing more, nothing less. Okay, but it determines, if you increase the advertising budget by 10% and your sales is also increasing by 10%, then it is kind of a unitary elastic. But if you increase your advertising budget by 10% and if the sales is increasing by 50%, then your advertisement becomes highly elastic. Okay, so demand is highly elastic, which and it depends more on advertisement. But again, if you're increasing the advertisement by 10% and your demand increased by 5%, then that doesn't make any sense. You don't need to advertise much of your product, because even if you are spending, if you're increasing your advertising budget by 10%, your demand is not increasing much, it is just increasing by 5%. So you need to check whether you need to continue with the advertisement or stop it. Okay, so it is not very much elastic. Your demand, your product is not very much elastic. It doesn't depend much upon advertisement or promotion. So you need to think about that in this case. Okay, So this is about fourth one. So you can go through this. E stands for elasticity, A stands for advertisement. So advertising elasticity is 0, it can be between 0 to 1, it can be equal to 1. Like a 10% increase in advertising expenses increases 10% in the sales, that means your elasticity is 1. Okay, so similarly has been done. Then it is about application of elasticity in business decision making. Well, there are huge applications, but it is a kind of a explanation which will be helpful for explaining your answers if this comes for the exam. Okay, so you can go through again this. Then the final part is about demand forecasting. Okay, so as we have discussed regarding the different kinds of demands, how a demand is generated, what is the law of demand, what is the law of supply, and we have discussed regarding the equilibrium of demand and supply analysis. Now it is very important for the business to forecast the demand, to judge what can be demand in the near future, in the future, so as to do everything related behind that. Okay, how much to produce, what to produce, okay, when to produce, everything will be decided during the production phase when the manager knows what is the demand of our product in coming days. Okay, so that's the reason demand forecasting plays a very important role, because it removes the uncertainty. If we manufacture so many products and the products are not, we are not able to sell those products, then it would be a great problem. Okay, so to avoid any uncertainty, any risk, the manager does the demand forecasting. Okay, so there is a way, or demand forecasting actually is a systematic way how a business needs to do a demand forecasting. Okay, so first of all, demand forecasting helps you in determining the production target, how much you need to produce, planning and scheduling your production. Okay, when to produce your items, acquiring inputs, as the production requires raw material, labors and capital. So when you need to pump in this raw material, when you need to pump in this capital, when you will be hiring laborers to do the activities, that depends upon the demand forecasting. And then making provision for finances, formulating pricing strategies, planning advertisements, all this will depend upon the demand forecasting. Demand forecasting is the basic thing, is the first thing which you will be doing in order to plan all these things. Okay, so going on with the steps of demand forecasting. First is specifying the objective. What is your objective, whether it is a long term demand you are going to forecast, or it is a short term demand you are going to forecast. Okay, whether it's your own product, or whether it is a substitute product or a complementary product, what it is. Okay, then you determine the time perspective. Second one, the time perspective is for how many years you are going to predict the demand, whether it is your seasonal product only for rainy season you are determining what is the demand, or you are making electronics where maybe for 2 or 3 years the technology might not change of related to your product. Then you are demand forecasting for 2 or 3 years. Or whether it is a hotel industry, how the tourism will flourish in next 10 to 15 years in a particular region, that demand you are forecasting. Well, it depends upon which industry, which product, where you are manufacturing, how much you are manufacturing, and what kind of people and technology it depends upon. So time perspective plays a second important role in demand forecasting. Third is about making choice of method for demand forecasting. Now there are many methods of demand forecasting. Which method is suitable for your demand forecasting, that you need to determine first, and then depending upon the choice of the method, you will begin with your demand forecasting process. Then the fourth one is about collection of data and data adjustment. Okay, collection of data is through basically two sources. One is primary data and second is secondary data. Primary data is the collection which is being done by in person by the researcher. Okay, and secondary data is the collection of data from already research done and it has been published, and you're collecting all those datas and trying to fit into your analysis and your equation. And then it can be a combination of both primary as well as secondary. Okay, and then whatever data you have collected, you need to adjust it. Adjust is not manipulation. Adjusting is adjusting it to your suitable region, your product. Okay, what you are thinking. Okay, and making sense out of it, using some graphical method or using some tabular format or something like that. So you will be representing data in a systematic way. And the final one is estimation and interpretation of results. When you have collected the data, you have used the method, you have specified the objective, whatever you have done in the earlier stages, you need to interpret the results. What is the demand forecasting is? Okay, how much will be the demand in the near future in the time frame which you have decided, then estimating and interpreting those results, and then you will be finally reaching your figure of demand forecasting. Okay, then these are the two main methods of demand forecasting. Okay, one is survey method and one is statistical methods. Okay, survey method is creating a questionnaire, okay, and going and asking people. Those people can be your consumers, your experts, your salespeople, your anyone. Okay, so primarily, okay, survey methods will consist of doing a primary research, going out and doing the primary research. Whereas the second one, statistical methods, it can be considered as the second part after the survey method is completed, or a statistical method can be considered for a secondary data analysis when the data is already collected and you're doing the analysis. Okay, so it depends. The first we'll go to survey method. Survey method is been divided into three. Okay, first is consumer survey method, which is the direct interview. Okay, so in consumer survey, we are going to ask the consumer of the product who are going to use the products. We are going to approach them and we are going to ask what is the review of that product. Okay, so that's the reason it is also called as direct interview. We are going to interview with the people who are using the products, who are going to use the products, who are our potential customers. Okay, so in this again there are three. It is divided. First is complete enumeration method. Complete enumeration method, that means we are going to ask each and every customer, each and every consumer of our product. We are going to each and every consumer who has used or who would be using our product, and we are going to interview that person. Okay, this is possible when there are few people. We cannot ask each and every person in the entire city. Okay, it is very difficult and it is time consuming, and it is and it becomes irrelevant. Okay, but when the enumeration, okay, when our customer base is very small, okay, in that case we can do a complete enumeration method, and in this entire consumer base can be asked, and they can be we can analyze that. Okay, beside one thing it is written here, besides the demand forecast through this method may not be reliable for following reasons. Okay, why? Because consumers themselves may not have the exact idea of the demand in the future, and hence they may be unable or unwilling to tell the exact quantity. Even if they answer, their answers are hypothetical questions, may be hypothetical, not real. Consumers' response may be biased according to their own expectations about the market conditions. So this is the main disadvantage or the challenge which has been faced in complete enumeration method, that you are going to ask the consumers are not able to answer it properly, and the question should also be framed properly. If you just ask the customer what is the consumption of your rice in this entire year, then the consumer might not be able to calculate and answer it properly. Okay, so the question should also be framed in such a way that it is easy for the consumer to answer it, even if the options are there. Okay, you asked such a question that what is the consumption of rice in the entire year, what is the consumption of oil in 1 year, okay, or how many movies have you seen from past 5 years. Okay, it is very difficult for the answer, even if these questions are options are given. Okay, so the questions and options should be framed properly. And the second one is about sample survey method. In sample survey, we are not going to ask the entire population, but we are going to select a sample from the population which is our target market. Okay, so some of the people will be asked, okay, and whatever the answer those some of the people will give, we will multiply it with the number of people, and then we figure out that this is the answer of the entire population itself. So basically, in sample survey, we are going to select a sample from the population and ask an interview to them, and then we'll extrapolate that result. Then the third one is about the end use method. In the first and the second one, which was complete enumeration and sample survey, we were asking the consumer who are going to use our product. In the end use method, the customer of our company are not the end users. We are a kind of a supplier of raw material, where the raw material we are selling it to the customer who is processing our raw material, making into a product, and then selling that product to the consumers. So we are not directly selling it to the consumers, we are selling the raw material to the customer who is processing it and then selling it to the consumers. So that's the reason we cannot do a survey of our customers. Our customer is we can do, but the better method would be, we are going to ask the end consumer whose our raw material will be converted into some product and they'll be using it. So we are going to ask them. Okay, so there are few stages in this, how we are going to do this. So in the first stage, it is necessary to identify and list all the possible users of the production in the question. So who are our who are our products consumer. Okay, eventually we are going to list down those. And then in the second stage, it involves fixing suitable technical norms of consumption of the product under study. Okay, what are the norms, when they'll be using it, how much they'll be using it. So there will be certain norms which will be setting what basically questions we are going to ask to the end consumers. And then in the third stage, when the technical norms are established for different industries and other end users of the product, the third stage is the application of the norms. For this purpose, it is necessary to know the desired or target level of output of the individual industries for the reference year, and also likely development of other economic activities that use the products and likely output targets. Okay, so now we are going to do a kind of an interview and then apply that, which depends upon different industries. Okay, and then the fourth and the final stage is to aggregate the product wise or use wise content of the item for which the demand is to be forecasted. Okay, so the product wise analysis data which we have collected, we will be doing the analysis of that, and the use wise analysis. Okay, so there are examples which is very self-explanatory. Okay, the first one is, suppose you are manufacturing cement, you are a cement manufacturing company, you are not directly giving it to the consumers, because your cement is going to be used to manufacture roads. Your cement is being used to manufacture houses, factories, schools. Okay, so what is the demand of the houses in the near future, that you will be finding out. Okay, so depending upon the demand of the houses, on that you will be manufacturing or producing your cement. Okay, so you are going to interview the consumers, that what is the probability that you will be buying a new house in the near future. So if the demand of houses increases, then eventually the demand of roads will also increase, and the schools and hospitals and other establishment will also increase. So in turn, the demand of cement will also increase. So if you are a cement manufacturing company, you are going to ask to the people that what is the demand of houses and other establishment. Not, you are not going to ask to the people what is the demand of cement you are feeling. Okay, so people will not be able to answer that. So people can only answer what they will be directly using it, okay, not indirectly. So cement is a kind of a raw material for the houses, roads and factories and other establishments. So you are going to ask to the consumers what is the demand for the houses and etc. Okay, so this was about the consumer survey. Okay, consumer surveys for the three consumer survey. Okay, it comes with three. Okay, complete enumeration, sample survey and use survey method. Okay, this is about consumer survey. And in survey method, the second part is the opinion poll method. So in opinion poll method, we are going to ask the experts, not the consumers. Where in the consumer survey we asked the consumers, in opinion poll method we are not going to ask the consumers, because consumer may not be sometimes able to give the correct answer, or they might not be they might purposely be giving the wrong answers. Okay, for whatever reason it may concern them. So in the opinion poll method, we are not going to focus on the consumers, rather we are going to focus on the experts. Okay, so there are again three parts in this: expert opinion method, Delphi method, market studies and experiments. So in expert opinion method, we are going to ask the experts. Who are the experts? They are the sales representatives who are selling the product to different retail outlets, to different stores. They know how much can be the demand of the product in this region, in this at this time, during the time of this day, so whatever it is, the sales representatives who are going to each and every store, who are visiting each and every locality, they have a better knowledge of what is the sales of the products. So we are going to do a kind of an interview with the salesperson, and then we are going to find out. But the problem is, the salesperson will always be much more positive, and that's the reason this method can be a tricky one if the salesperson is giving all the positive answers, because his job is also being he's also concerned about his job. Okay, but we are not going to ask any consumer in this method. We in expert opinion method, we are going to ask only the experts. Okay, the second is about Delphi method. Very interesting, very important. Delphi method is a kind of a analysis in which, okay, you can just we can just read this. Delphi method of demand forecasting is an extension of simple expert opinion poll method. This method is used to consolidate the divergent expert opinions to arrive at a compromise estimate of future demand. Okay, that the process is simple. That means there in expert opinion we were asking a sales representatives. Okay, in Delphi method we are going to make a team of people, and every person will be independent in collecting the data from the other person, and that person will go out in the field, collect the data. It can be a sales representative or whatever he is. He'll go out in the field, he will collect the data, he'll come back and give give that data to the team leader, and the team leader will then swap the data between the team members, and then tell them to analyze it, and then give the report of it, and then the final report will be given by the team leader what is the demand of the product is. Okay, so in Delphi method, under Delphi method, the task of projecting demand for a product is assigned to anonymously to a group of market experts with a group leader. Okay, so market experts are there, and there is a group leader. The task is assigned anonymously in the sense that experts are not aware of each other. Market experts make their own demand projection individually for the product and submit the report to the group leader. Okay, so they'll be doing analysis and they'll be submitting a report to the group leader. The group leader interchanges the demand projection reports between the experts anonymously, seeking their opinion on the accuracy and reliability of the projection made by the other experts. Okay, so the reports will be interchanged, the reports will be swapped. The group leader seeks also the suggestion for the modification of the projections made by the other experts. The comments, remarks, suggestions made by the expert on the demand projection made by the experts are again interchanged between the experts. Okay, the experts may revise their own Estimates on the basis of suggestion and projections made by the other experts. If they feel so, the group leader may find a compromise estimate of the projection to be taken as a final estimate of the demand forecast. The compromise forecast is taken as a final demand forecast. Okay, so that's what I had explained. One group leader will be there. There will be many market experts under him. The market experts will go out in the field, find out what is the demand, and then come back and give a report. Those reports will be interchanged between those experts, and then they will be told to analyze, and then there will be a suggestion, remarks, whatever the discussion will be, and then the final estimate will be done by the group leader itself. So that is the interesting one, the Delphi method, which I have explained in a brief. Then the third one is about market studies and experiments. In market studies and experiments, it is basically an alternative method of collecting necessary information regarding current and also the future demand of the product, is to carry out market studies and experiments on consumer behavior under actual through controlled market conditions. Okay, so in this method we are going to test the consumer, how the consumer is going to react on the different parameters. Okay, so we are going to change and what the demand can be. Okay, so in market studies and experiments, what we are going to do, a company will select few cities. Okay, maybe 4 or 5 cities the company will select. Then the company will launch the product with different pricing, nature, color, taste in the different cities, and then they will be testing how the consumer will respond. Okay, for example, one product a company has launched in Mumbai with different pricing. That same product is launched by that company in Hyderabad with again different pricing, and the same product is launched in Delhi with some different pricing. Okay, so if that is happening, the response of they'll check the response of the consumers, and then again those thing will be swapped. Whatever the pricing was there in Hyderabad will be now the pricing in Mumbai. The pricing in Mumbai will be shifted to Delhi. The pricing of Delhi will be shifted to Hyderabad, and then again the response of the consumer will be checked. The same thing will be done by changing the nature of the product or the quality of the product. They will maybe launch a low quality product in Mumbai, high quality product in Bangalore, a very high quality product in Hyderabad, and then they will see what is the response of the consumer. Okay, so they can keep on doing this, and then finally they will collate all the results, and then they will be finding out what is the best price of the product, what is the best quality of the product which we need to manufacture. Just for example, the Colgate toothbrush, which Colgate toothpaste, which has been used, it may be 95% of purity or good quality, you can say. Okay, the quality which is maintained can be considered not 100%, it can be considered as 95%. So the pricing of Colgate is reasonable. So if Colgate wants to improve the quality, it needs to spend more to make it 99.99% pure or of very excellent quality, but the pricing will be 10 to 20 times. So just to make the product from 95 to 99.99%, if the cost is going very high, then the consumers will not buy, even if the quality has been improved in such a excellent way. Okay, so by 95% quality is fine with the reasonable price, not 99.99% quality with a huge price. Okay, so that is how the company will come to know what using the market experiments, what can be the demand of the product. Okay, what quality and the price we need to keep. Okay, so that's it from the opinion poll method also. So this completes the survey method. The survey method, I'll just go once again. So in survey method there are two: consumer survey, opinion poll method. Okay, consumer survey. In consumer survey there were three: complete enumeration, sample survey, end use method. Okay, complete enumeration, we are going to ask each and every consumer. Sample survey, we are going to select few people from the population and do an interview with them. End use survey method, we are going to ask the end consumer who are going to use the product, which our product is a raw material for that. Okay, and then that was about asking the consumers. and the second one about the opinion poll method, in which we are going to do a kind of an interview or use a method from using the experts, okay, not the consumers. Okay, and then second we are going to go and discuss regarding the statistical methods. So statistical methods, in this it is using mathematics and statistics and calculations to determine what is the demand forecast. It is what do you say, are not subjective, because the consumers might in the earlier method they were consumers and they were people basically who were answering the questions. So they can be right, wrong, they can be semi right, semi wrong, right, partially wrong. Okay, so the answers can vary from each and every one. Some might forget something, some might remember and answer it differently sometimes. So there are the question of human error in the previous method, whereas in statistical method it is the calculation part, it is representing on the graph and tables. So in this the human error is removed to a certain extent. Okay, and it requires less time and it costs less, because only few people can be used for statistical method, whereas in the earlier method the involvement of people was high, so it requires more time and it requires more cost as well. Okay, so beginning with the statistical method, there are three kinds as per this. So there are trend projection methods, barometric methods and econometric methods. Okay, I'll go through it in briefly. So in trend projection methods, we are going to project the trend, whether it is uptrend, downtrend, sideways, what is happening with the demand of the product. Okay, so the first thing is about graphical method. Whatever data we have collected, we are going to represent it in a graph, and then we are going to find out how is the increase. Okay, so what is the decrease if it is there is a decrease, what is the increase if there is an increase. So in a graphical format we will be representing it. The second is about trend fitting equation. In trend fitting we are going to fit what it is also called as the least square method. In this we are going to fit the trend, whether it is whether the increase is linear, whether the increase is exponential. Okay, how it is. So a linear trend will have a kind of a formula where a plus bt, where a is the constant and b is the coefficient of that, the variable t, which is time. And so what is the reaction of how much is the sales with as per the time passes. So whether it is linear, or if it is exponential, then it would be y is equal to a e raised to bt. Okay, so what is the trend if it is a linear or it is an exponential. Okay, the second one, third one in this is box checking method. Box checking's method is for the short term projection method. So as I was discussing, if your product is seasonal, if you are manufacturing raincoats and your sale of raincoats is just before or during the rainy season, then you are going to box the area of the projection to only 4 or 5 months of the rainy season, and then you are going to ignore the data which you are getting in the other seasons. Okay, or you are selling winter jackets, then you are only going to consider the winter season months. Okay, so in box checking is basically done for the seasonal products. And then the second one is about barometric method of forecasting. In barometric method we are going to use some indicators. Okay, so because the barometer, as it is as the name suggests, barometer is the measurement where weather department used to predict the future. Okay, future in the sense predict whether the rain will come, whether it will be a sunny day, or whether it will be a cloudy day, what it is. So they use barometric method for that. So there are indicators which will indicate how the weather will be. So similarly there are two indicators here, lead lag indicators and diffusion index. So these indicator will indicate what is the demand, what will be the demand of the product is. Okay, so the first one is about lead lag indicator. Lead lag indicators are the indicators which will tell us how, what is the demand of the product, what is happening with the product. Okay, so the first so in lead lag indicators there are three: leading indicators, coincidental indicators, and lagging indicators. Okay, so leading indicators are those indicators which will tell what is the demand of the product immediately. Okay, because they are leading it, leading the demand. That means what is the different businesses doing, whether they are investing into certain raw materials or investing into certain products, whether the prices of those materials are rising. For example, if in a certain region there is a huge buying of cement, steel, people are investing into lands, people the prices of the houses are going up, then that means the demand of houses in that area is also getting going up basically. So from all this we are going to judge what is the demand of the real estate in that area, because the prices are going up, people are investing more, the prices of the materials are going up. So all this will tell the demand of the houses are going up. Okay, that is an indicator of that. And then the coincidental indicators are those indicators which are together with the demand. Okay, for example, how the agricultural sector, the employees are increasing or decreasing in the non-agricultural sector. Okay, and what is the rate of unemployment, what is the sales recorded by the what is the sales which is happening exactly. Okay, so when there is a demand, there will be parallelly the sales will be happening. When there is no demand, the sales will not be happening. So they are coincidental, they are going hand in hand. Okay, then there are lagging indicators. Okay, lagging indicators is when the demand has slowed down. Okay, we are going to prove basically the demand has already slowed down, and it has been shown by the labor. One of the example is labor cost per unit of the manufactured output. If the demand is getting slow, then we are producing less items, and if we are producing less items, the cost of labor is also increasing. Okay, for per output. In the past, we were manufacturing 10,000 items in a day with maybe 10 labors involved to manufacture that 10,000 items. So now from 10,000 we are manufacturing 1,000 items. So for 1,000 items we still have 10 labors. So the cost of labor per unit output has increased. So that determines that this is an indicator that the demand of a product is slowing down, but it is telling us very late. So that's the reason it is a lagging indicator. The same goes for the outstanding loans. Okay, so the outstanding loans are increasing. We are not able to pay the loans to the bank because the demand is low, and because of that our profits are low, and because of our profits are low we are getting less revenue, and because of that less revenue we are not able to pay back the loans. So that is again an indicator of lower demand. Or if reverse happens, it is a case of higher demand. So it is the last thing which we are through which we are coming to know the demand of a product. Okay, and the second one in this is diffusion index. Okay, in whatever discussion we did in this one, which is lead lag indicators, sometimes they can be two or more indicators at a time of a product. So if there are two or more indicators, we use diffusion index. We include all those indicators together, we make a kind of an index, and then we try to figure out the demand. And the last one is about the econometric method. In econometric method we are going to use economics and statistics, and we are going to combine it, a kind of a statistical tool. Okay, using this method, if we do demand forecasting, it is better than the earlier two, because we are going to use the regression methods and simultaneous equation model, which you are studying in the statistics subject in your first sem. So in regression method we are I'll just read it first. Regression analysis is the most popular method of demand estimation. This method combines economic theory and statistical techniques of estimation. Economic theory is employed to specify the determinants of the demand and to determine the nature of the relationship between demand of a product and its determinants. Okay, so we are going to use regression method and to develop a relationship. Okay, we'll develop a relationship between the demand of the product and whatever whatever its determinants are. Okay, so there will be some dependent variable and some independent variable. Okay, so in detail, if we go the simple or bivariate regression technique, in this technique there will be a single independent variable will be used to estimate a statistical value of a dependent variable. Okay, so so there will be two in this. One will be dependent variable, one will be independent variable. Okay, so just I'll just go through the example itself. Suppose in a city the demand for such items such as salt, sugar is found to be dependent largely on the population of the city. So under this condition, the demand functions of a salt and sugar contain only one independent variable, that is population. So if the population of the of a region is increasing, the demand for salt will also increase. The population of a region is increasing, the demand for sugar will also increase. So only one thing which is dependent upon the demand of salt and sugar is the population, which is independent. You cannot control the population of the city. So if population is increasing or decreasing, then the demand of your product will also increase or decrease. That is one independent variable in this we are considering. Whereas in the second one, which is multivariate regression, there will be two or more determinants that will determine the demand of your product. So in multivariate regression equation, it is used where demand of a commodity is considered to be a function of more than one explanatory variable. The analyst may find that demand for sweets, fruits, vegetables depends upon the number of independent variables such as commodity own price of its substitutes, household income, population, etc. So anything basically. You can consider anything, sweets, fruits, vegetables. You can consider cars, you can consider movie theaters, you can consider any tourist destination, you can consider schools, colleges, hospitals. So there will be different things. You're opening up a school, then the school the admission of your school depends upon what is the how many children are there in that locality, what is the income level of the people in that society. Okay, so it will depend upon various characteristics, various determinants. Okay, in that case, that will be called as multivariate regression. You are going to establish a relationship between one independent variable and many independent variables. Okay, then the second in this econometric method is about simultaneous equation method. So simultaneous equation, you are going to make a equation. Okay, and then you are going to check. Okay, so I'll just go through this last one. Recall that regression technique of demand forecasting consists of single equation. So in contrast, the simultaneous equation model of forecasting involves several simultaneous equations. Regression technique assumes that dependent variable affects in no way the independent variable. On the contrary, forecasting through econometric method of simultaneous equation enables the forecaster to take into account the simultaneous interaction between the dependent and independent variables. So in this, in the earlier one, we were saying that dependent variable will depend upon the independent variable. Okay, for example, the population was independent variable and the demand of salt was dependent upon the population. But in simultaneous equation model, both the variables affect each other. Okay, so suppose if there is good infrastructure, the population will be attracted to a city. If the population is getting attracted towards the city, the infrastructure will be built more. Okay, just for example, when when Belgaum was declared a smart city, okay, so the outside investment started coming into Belgaum. Because of outside investment started coming into Belgaum, the infrastructure started growing in Belgaum. And because infrastructure started growing in Belgaum, other people also started entering and settling into Belgaum. And because of that, other people started settling in the Belgaum. The business started to grow, and there were the price of real estate increased. So everything was interdependent upon this. So this simultaneous equation model tells about this. Okay, so there are again two things in that, uh, endogenous variables and exogenous variables. And endogenous variables are those that are determined within the model. Okay, these are included in the model as dependent variables, that is the variables that are to be explained by the model. These are also called as controlled variables. Okay, we can control the endogenous variables, whereas the exogenous variable are those that are determined outside the model. These are inputs of the model. Whether a variable is treated endogenous or exogenous depend upon the purpose of the model. Okay, for example, exogenous variable can be money supply, tax rates, government spending, time, weather. Okay, they are not at all under the control, whereas the endogenous variable can be the quality of the product, the price of the product, something like that. Okay, and the second that this is the first step of determining, okay, of the simultaneous equation. Then the second step, to collect the necessary data on both exogenous and endogenous. Okay, and finally the third step is to create or estimate the model. Okay, so this is about, yeah, this is the end of the econometric method, and this is the end of the second chapter as well. Okay, so just remember the headings. For example, in the simultaneous equation, and then regression method, what is bivariate, what is multivariate. Okay, you remember the headings, and understand what is there in this, so that you can write on your own as well. Okay, so this completes our second module. Some important questions which I felt from this chapter can be given is given. Okay, don't ignore these. Okay, so well, that's it. Thank you for listening.